After spending over 2 decades in the brewing industry, I've been able to take grain, water, and yeast and turn it into something delicious, but never quite like this. I'm stepping out of the brewery and into my home kitchen in order to find the perfect baked good to pair with some of my favorite beers. This is Baking to Brew. Saisons for me are a style that have truly exemplified the spirit of the craft brewing industry. It has a rich history being brewed at farmhouse breweries to quench the thirst of farm workers, but it became a blank canvas for brewers to add their own creativity. I've seen Saisons with added fruits, spices, wild yeast, barrel aging, and the beer itself has been wide open for interpretation. I've seen it from golden in color to deep amber to even black in color. But one beer has truly been the benchmark of the style, and that's Saison Dupont. The key to a good Saison is the yeast. It has high attenuation, which makes the final beer very dry, and the yeast also produces strong fruity aromas. Saison Dupont, for instance, has a lot of lemony character as well as a little bit of spice like white pepper. I think what I'm going to want to do with this pairing is highlight the fruit and spice character of the beer. One thing that came to mind is this twisted South African donut called a Koeksister. What makes this donut as unique is it's soaked in a very sweet syrup infused with lemon and ginger. Now, I've never been to South Africa and I've never had an authentic Koeksister, but I think I've got a pretty good idea of what I need to do. We're going to start out by making the syrup. To 1 cup of water, I'm going to add 400 grams of sugar, stir to combine. Add 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar, 1 thing of ginger chopped, 1 cinnamon stick, the juice of 1 lemon, and zest from said lemon. Bring the mixture to a slow simmer until all the sugar is dissolved, after which point I'm going to strain it out to remove all the solid bits. I'm going to put the syrup in the refrigerator to chill. Now I'm going to move on to the donuts. To 250 grams of cake flour, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 25 grams of butter. I'm going to work the butter into the flour with my fingers until everything is absorbed. Once all the butter is absorbed, I'm going to add half a cup of milk, 1 large egg, and mix the combined. This was actually a little too wet, so I ended up adding a little more flour just to get into a more cohesive dough. I'm not going to want to overwork this dough, but I am going to give it a little knead just to get it into a cohesive ball. Once that's done, I'm going to wrap it in plastic, cut out the part as I'm struggling with my piece of plastic wrap, and put it in the fridge to chill. As the dough is chilling, I'm going to start heating up my oil. Use any neutral oil, I'm using peanut. Once I'm about ready to fry, I'm going to start rolling out my dough. I'm going to run into roughly a rectangle about 1/4 inch in depth. I'm going to cut off the uneven edges just to clean it up a bit, and then cut it into 6 relatively equalish portions. Now, one at a time, I'm going to cut them into 3 strips, leaving one end intact, and then do a simple braid. Take one of the outside strands, run it over the middle, and then repeat on the opposite side, repeating until I get to the end and pinch off that end. I'm going to give the other end a good pinch too, just to give it some symmetry. Place it on a baking tray and repeat with the other 5. Now, frying shouldn't be overly complicated. The key is that you just keep an eye on the temperature. Bring the oil up to about 350 degrees and drop in your Koeksisters. Give your Koeksisters a turn once you see good browning on one side. And once you have that really nice golden crisp exterior, they're ready to pull from the fryer. And now they're ready to soak in that syrup. Remember, I said soak, so this isn't a quick dip. Leave it in there for a couple minutes because you want the dough to absorb some of this syrup. Looks like I had one start to come apart on me, but the other 5 came out great. Once they had a nice soak in that syrup, take it out and put it on a cooling rack. Now there's nothing quite like a donut straight out of the fryer when the outside is still nice and crisp. So let's not waste any time and get this beer open and try this pairing. So I had a little bit of that syrup left over, so I'm just going to pour it right on top of my Koeksisters. But I'm certainly not going to blame you if you want to use that donut-infused simple syrup to utilize in a cocktail. The Koeksisters came out fantastic. They're so light and airy, and the outside was really crisp that actually softened up a bit after the long soak in the sweet syrup. And I actually really like the contrast between the sweetness of that syrup and how dry the beer was. That syrup is so sweet that it tends to linger on the tongue, and because the beer is so dry, it actually provides that contrast and gives a little balance to everything. But the flavor hook is what really made it. The spice aroma of the Saison really came through and matched well with the ginger and the lemon in the syrup. I encourage you to try Koeksisters at home. It's a really basic recipe for the base donut, but what really elevates it is that syrup. And I definitely encourage you to go out and buy a bottle of Saison Dupont. It's without a doubt one of the quintessential Belgian style ales. Keep an eye on this channel where I'm going to find new things to bake to pair with some of my favorite classic beers.